This program, if you follow it to heart, you cannot fail. And you will see later on how.
I was taking 2 antidepressants, 1 antipsychotic, and benzodiazepine, 2.5 milligrams clonazepam. And my wife actually was the one that found the support group, I think about 2012, 2013. At that point, my kidneys, my estimated GFR was, had dropped down to, basically I was going into stage 2 kidney failure. And so anyway, I found this support group, and I came here every 2 weeks for about 2 years. The first 6 months, so depressed, I was so anxious. I didn't even know Hamdy's name. I couldn't remember his name. I didn't really speak much. I just listened. And after about a couple of years, I hadn't figured it out. I mean, prior to the support group, or even the first 2 years, I looked at myself, my situation. I thought, I'm never going to get off these medications. And I said, I just couldn't see a way out. And after coming here for a couple of years, I came here every 2 weeks. And then, I don't know, it started to click. I started meditating, which, one of the keys to recovery. I was always at a high level for exercise. So I started walking. I hadn't done anything for 4 years. I mean, I was basically, I had lost an inch in height. I was sleeping 16 hours a day. My kidneys were failing. I was just an absolute mess. And so I started walking an hour every day, and continued coming to the support group. And it just started to kick in. I started to figure it out, okay, meditate every day, try and get out, try and socialize a little, and change the way you think. The reason I got the anxiety so bad was because when my mother broke her hip in our house about 6 months prior to passing away, and I blamed myself for her breaking her hip because she got up to close the curtains, and I blamed myself that I didn't get there, to close them. But reprogramming, basically, your brain being neuroplasticity or whatever you want to call it, you can reprogram your thinking, your reconstructing neuron pathways. So I continued walking an hour a day, and I was changing the way I thought. And after about 3 years, from 2010, maybe 2013, I started noticing a difference. And I just continued. And then I started systematically eliminating the medications. I was on 2 antidepressants, an antipsychotic and a benzo, and I got off the antipsychotic first. And then I started on the antidepressants. And it took me a good year to get off the antipsychotic and the 2 antidepressants. And so all I was left was the benzodiazepine. And by this time, I was an indoor rower. I don't know if you know those erg machines in the gyms, the ones that most people won't get on because they don't like them. They're too difficult. I was a Canadian champion when I was 51. So I was always in pretty good shape. So I started rowing again in 2015. And I started getting fitter, and I told some of my friends and my relatives that I was going to break all my personal bests from when I was 51, and they said, no, that's not possible when you're 10 years older. I said, oh, just watch me. And the reason I knew I was going to do it is because even though I had reached a fairly high level, I knew that with these new coping mechanisms, I could handle much more stress. And I did. I broke every PB. I eventually broke some world records. It only took me 3 years. So now I'm, top 10 in the world. I just went to Boston, one of the biggest indoor rowing competitions in the world, and I came in second in February. I got off the benzodiazepine, so I'm basically medication free. My thinking is, I think my IQ probably went up 20 points, so it's back up to maybe a little above average. I don't know. Not as smart as Hamdy, but so I'm really proud of myself. I'm most proud of the fact that I got over this, and I took myself basically physically to a level that I could never have achieved prior to getting this illness without these coping mechanisms. I couldn't train at this level before. I would be way too stressed out. Now I can train at a really high level. I mean, I've got training partners, 4 or 5 of them in the world, and most of them hold world records, and we're all pretty close. I've only been doing it for 2.5 years, so I intend to beat most of them in another year or two. Maybe not all of them, but so now I just come here every 2 weeks, and I just I see all the people, and I see their situation. I just try and help them, inspire them, give them a little bit of motivation, because I know exactly what it was like. And I think for the most part, the most people that come in here don't seem as bad as I was. I think I was one of the worst. So I think, if I can do it, anyone can do it. I'm healthy physically, mentally, and I'm basically doing what I want to do.
Wonderful. Is there any questions for anything you'd like to know?
Which way do you think most effectively to heal your depression? Like physical exercises or the society, social events?
I think I don't think it's any one that's any more important than the other. I think it's the cumulative effect of all of them together. I think, if you took away the meditation, or you took away the exercise, or you took away the positive thinking, it's not going to work. It's a combination of everything. And it's just going forward and just, you have bad days, you'll have days where you think, oh God, I'm not getting any better, or haven't made any progress, but it's just not giving up. It's the same as anything in life. You don't get anywhere in life without going through some bad times.
Do you think the medicine could numb your...
Numb?
Yeah, numb.
If you've seen the way I spoke like 4 years ago, like I've got some video when I was at a birthday party. Oh my God, I'm so doped up. I mean, I look terrible, and my speaking, I'm so slow. My reactions, everything. I couldn't comprehend anything at a high level at all. It was just completely dumbed down. But I mean, I was on 4 medications, so.
So do you think medicine is important to heal?
I think in the beginning, before you have the coping mechanisms, medicine, for some people that have really bad anxiety or depression, I think medicine plays an important role. But once you get the coping mechanisms, once you understand what the illness is, and you start changing the way you think, and changing your exercise, diet, and everything else, can get off medication. Tori is a prime example. I mean, she was diagnosed as being bipolar, and she was on lithium, and the doctors said she would be on it for life, and she got off it in a couple of years, and she's been doing fine for. And she's working full time, and she coaches Dragon Boat. She hasn't had a relapse. She's medication free. So.
And then I'll talk about these things later.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Dion.
Okay.
Thank you for being here.
Today I will address the subject of dealing with depression without medication. If somebody has depression and doesn't take medication, what happens? Then we'll talk about using antidepressants, the benefits and the drawbacks, and we'll look into the depression risk factors and the root causes of depression and anxiety, and then how to heal from depression and anxiety without relapses. Then I'll introduce the HR Mental Wellness Program. What happens? Usually people get depressed. Many people get depressed, and it takes some time to recover. Some people are able to work by themselves, trying to recover on their own. And depression could last for a short period of time, could last for long, depending on the personal situation. From the medical research, it says if 50% of the people will be able to recover on their own within 3 months, another 10% would recover within 6 months, but after 6 months, healing becomes difficult, and about 20% will recover in longer time than 6 months, but 20% of the people will stay depressed even after 2 years. Depression is very debilitating illness, and you really need to consult with a professional to help you go through, because it is too difficult to go on by yourself. And if you have depression, the next bout usually it is deeper and it takes a longer time to recover. So every time it is getting worse, and that's why it is important to address the root causes of depression. Use of antidepressants. Antidepressants could be a lifesaver for some people, and it can help with relieving the symptoms for severe depression, but it is not recommended for mild or moderate depression. And it had side effects. Sometimes the side effects outweighs the benefits. It has side effects for digestion, for sexual function, for weight, and for insomnia sometimes. It has its own side effects. The second thing is that when you take medication, it does not resolve the underlying issues. You still have the underlying issues there, and that's why there is a chance that you get another bout of depression. It also doesn't help the individual to develop skills to prevent relapses. So after it is not helping in the long term. Let's look at relapses. You remember when I talked about the patient who deal with depression without medication? It was found that patients are nearly twice as likely to get another bout of depression if they are on medication and stop taking the medication. So it is the relapse rate is 50%. For every 150 will relapse. In the people who didn't take medication, only 25%. So there is a risk of relapses by using medication. The other thing is that's why people go through the cycle. Take medication, stop, relapse, start taking the medication, and sometimes the doctor may say you may have to use the medication the rest of your life. And the reason is in using medication itself. And if you look at the studies about the pharmaceutical industries, when they do a study for medication, they don't look at the long-term effect. They look only at the short-term, see is effective or not is effective in short-term, let it go. They don't look, and when studies were made to look into the long-term effect of antidepressant, they found that it is associated with cognitive impairment, which is like dementia, Alzheimer. So, and they found that the antidepressants could double the risk for having dementia or Alzheimer. So you can see the medication is, in long term, it is causing more relapses, and it can affect the health of your brain in the long term. What are the risks of relapses using antidepressants? About 50% of the people who get depressed will have another bout. And then 80% of the people who have the second bout will relapse. So in total, you already have, out of 100 cases, you have 90 of them relapse. So the question is, if someone tells you you will get medication and your chance of cure is less than 10%, would you take it? That's the question. So, as I said, medication sometimes is life-saving. And it is recommended for mild to moderate depression. It is recommended to either take therapy or coaching before you take medication. For severe depression, you need to seek therapy or coaching alongside with medication. So, and as you can see, you will see later on why it is the coaching or therapy is recommended. Depression risk factors. Depression, there are many factors that can cause depression. First one, abuse. Abuse in childhood. The people who are abused sexually or verbally or physically are much more vulnerable to depression and anxiety. The second thing is genetics. It is believed that genetics contribute to the depression and anxiety. And they kind of, from some research, they attributed about 40% of the risk factors is caused by genetics. But genetics alone does not cause you to be depressed. It is other factors that could collectively drive you to get depressed. There are other certain medications. There are certain medication we take, it can cause the depression or anxiety. And something like beta blockers for high blood pressure, reserpine, benzodiazepines, as a matter of fact, that's taken for anxiety, can cause depression. And some opioids like codeine and morphine. So there are medications that can cause depression and anxiety. And when I see a client, first thing I ask them, what medication are you taking? To see if they are contributing to the issues. Another thing, serious or chronic illness. Somebody has chronic pain, can't sleep well, can't socialize, is not in a good mood. Naturally, they will get depressed. People who have serious or chronic illness, something like diabetes, asthma, heart disease, arthritis, kidney disease, HIV, MS. These are chronic illnesses that can contribute to the person having a depression or anxiety. Conflict. Somebody is in conflict within their home, their family, their work. That's another cause of or kind of trigger of depression. Major events in life. And major events could be something positive, something you're moving to a new house, or you major kind, or something bad, that's you lost some close person, lost a job. So all these things can contribute to depression. The environment itself, where you live, what if there's too much heat or too cold or the too much stresses in the environment you live in that can contribute. Other personal problems, somebody has more than one mental illness or have other illnesses that depression can be triggered by them. And the last but the most important one is nutritional imbalance or lack of self-care. If we don't eat well, if we don't sleep well, if we don't take the supplements, exercise, socialize, if we don't do all these things and take care of ourselves, that can trigger depression itself. So the question is depression inherited or learned behavior? And there are two theories, conflicting theories. Some, when in the last century, said, depression is a chemical imbalance in the brain. And we can balance it by taking medication, and the medication, it is lack of serotonin, and the medication will raise the serotonin level and will kind of make the person recover. But there are a lot of evidence that this theory is incorrect. Number one, there is some new medication called stabilin, or the chemical name of tianeptine, and it decreases the level of serotonin in the brain. That was developed in France and currently is being used in Europe and in Asia, and it lowers the level of serotonin and is used for treatment of depression. So it is not serotonin. The other thing is that when we give, if depression is caused by imbalance, and these drugs will bring the balance back, why not all people heal? People take medication, 30% of them would not improve at all, and the rest may improve a little bit, but why wouldn't they fully recover if it is lack of chemical imbalance, of lack of serotonin? So this is another thing that we need to know. It is with the progress in neuroscience, we know that the theory is too simplistic to work. The other thing is genetic, because we are more vulnerable to depression, and the reason, number one, we didn't have a gene. We didn't identify a gene that causes depression. It is all based on statistics. And they found that if the parents have depression, there is 40% chances of people getting depressed. The other thing is that is it learned behavior? You know, when a child is born, is a sponge, like picking everything from their parents or caregivers. So could it be a kid seeing his father or his mother acting, sleeping all day long, and not take the way she behaves, the way she acts? The kid is learning it. Do you think that's not normal? This is normal. So the kids can pick the anxiety or depression from their parents, from learning from their parents' behavior. And the other thing is, you notice that it is not men and women equally. They notice that women are 42% more vulnerable to depression if their parents is one or both the parents are depressed, and only 29% of the men get depressed. So if it is inherited, why not men and women inherited equally? And let me tell you a story about dog cloning, and you'll see what I mean by learned behavior. Do you know how they now they clone dogs and cats? If you have your loved dog is getting old and dying, you can clone him for only $100,000. Cat is cheaper, $50,000. And the way they do it, they take cells from the old pet, and they take the nucleus from the pet and take an egg from another dog and inject the nucleus inside the egg, it becomes fertilized. And they do that work in the US. Then they send the fertilized egg to Korea to have a surrogate mother, a Korean dog surrogate mother, and give birth to the new puppies in Korea. And here's what they found. In Korea, they don't raise dogs as pets. They raise them as livestock. They eat them. So the dogs have fear of people. So when the mother give birth to the puppies and the caretaker go to take care of these puppies, the mother is afraid of the caretaker. Guess what? The puppies picked the same fear from the mother, the surrogate mother. So it tells you that although the puppy came from a very like the original pet that's being cloned, it came from a happy family, a very nice dog, very loving dog, feeling loved. The new puppies are scared. Where did they learn? They learned from the new mother. So, and that's why I say is that we learn a lot of behavior from our parents or our caregivers. So what are the root causes of depression and anxiety? The first one is conditioning, and I'll talk about that later on. The second is our lifestyle. We neglected our spiritual needs, and we focused everything in material wealth and consumerism. The third one is chronic stress. And the fourth factor is lack of self-care. We neglect ourselves to the point where we drive ourselves into depression or anxiety. So let's look at conditioning. You know, when a kid is born, if you look at the new baby, you see they have their own personality. They're so unique from their brothers and sisters. But unfortunately, when they're growing up, they are influenced by the caregivers at home and by the culture they live in, the environment they live in, as well as conditioning they undergo from birth. They undergo for conditioning at home. The caregiver tells them what to do, and the little baby, just for survival purposes, seek approval from the caregiver. Do whatever the caregiver wants them to do, and they grow this way seeking approval. They go to school, they try to mold them in one mold, although every one of us is unique. And then at work, the same thing happens. We have to abide by rules that's created for us in our social environments. So we are undergoing conditioning in our from birth to school, to work, to social environment. The media influence, every day we're bombarded in the media with how you should be getting more wealth and focus on wealth and looks, and your value will increase when you get this new car or the new house. We became driven to look material wealth. And unfortunately today our role models in TV and movies and celebrities, they are not really the best role models for us. And as a result, what happens is that we grow in conflict with our original nature, and life becomes a struggle for us. We grow confused. We adopted a new ego, a new personality, our ego, and we are confused or unclear about who we are. Our self-image, we learn about our self-image from reflection from other people's. We see the world in a different view because we grow under certain stresses that make us adopt the self-image and our worldview. And as a result, we're unable to manifest the qualities of our souls. We live a life that's in contradiction with our purpose. And as we can see here, we are under huge stress since birth. Lifestyle. Lifestyle is the way of living, which manifests in coping with your physical, psychological, social, and economic environments in daily basis. And it is expressed in our activities, attitudes, interests, opinions, core values, and habits. And where did we pick all these things? We picked it from our conditioning. It is expressed in our self-image and the worldview. And what happens is that as I said, we were kind of taught that material wealth is number one in our life, in this first priority. It takes priority over things. We ignored the spirituality, and I'll talk about that later on. And as a result, we embraced materialism and consumerism. And now we sacrifice important things in order to own stuff for ourselves, for our family, for our children. And our consumption today is 100 times the consumption of resources in developing countries. And there is no stopping there. We are obsessed with material wealth, power, fame, and and it's called the happiness paradox, when we are now twice as wealthy compared to 40 years ago, but we're not as happy. We work long hours and sacrifice this, have less leisure time, less social relationship for the sake of making money. We lack mutual understanding between parents and children because parents are too busy to make money for the children, and there is really no and bond between the children and their parents. And as I said, the happiness paradox is just we are much more wealthy and much less happier. You can see the divorce rate is doubling, suicide of teenager is tripling, and violence and the crimes and substance abuse is increasing significantly, especially among younger people. This is a quotation from the research that's been done, and this is in my book, Mental Wellness: A Spiritual Journey. Dr. Kasser, professor of psychology, says, when acquiring more things takes center stage in life and consumption becomes the primary focus, we and our children tend to experience more anxiety and depression, a decreased sense of well-being, and more behavioral and physical problems. This is based on research. I mentioned in the book, affluence itself is not a problem. Being affluent is good, but it's not the problem. The problem lies in making affluence our focus and neglecting to develop our spiritual skills and the genuine social relationships that are necessary for our well-being. The more we strive for material positions and neglect those other aspects, the more fragile our well-being becomes. So you can see how focus and consumerism are contributing to our depression and anxiety. Neglecting spirituality in medicine and public life. Neglecting spirituality started in the 17th century with a scientific method. René Descartes developed the scientific method, which says that if we cannot, in medicine, we can track everything we measure. With things we cannot measure, we can't track. So as a result, we focus on the body, the blood pressure, the heart rate, all these things that we can measure, but we don't focus on the spirituality or the mind, because the mind is not measurable. We cannot measure what's happening in our mind. So they separated the body from the mind, and it was the biggest mistake ever happened in Western medicine. Then came Freud in the 20th century and really influenced the spirituality, became a kind of bad thing to talk about, intellectuals distance themselves from spirituality because it was believed that, according to Freud, that spirituality is and the religion are symptoms of mental illness. So all intellectuals that we grow in the 20th century completely distanced from spirituality as we know it. But later on, in Western medicine, they started doing research on how does spirituality affect our life? How does it help people heal, whether they have physical illness or mental illness? And this has been happening now in the past 35 years. And there are evidence that spirituality is so important for us to heal from physical illness and to heal from mental illness. But unfortunately, the medical establishment didn't wake up until the end of the 20th century. They started introducing some courses in medical school, but it's really touching on it superficially, because for one reason, spirituality is not a sport. It is, you have to practice it to be able to teach it. And that's the problem so far we're facing in our medical system. So spiritual needs for physical and mental health. I would like to say spirituality is not religion. Could be part of religion, but it is not religion. It is we as human beings. What separates us from animals is spirituality. And spirituality represents a level beyond the logical mind, which is limited in comprehending universal truth. I can't imagine that anyone can even think about this universe and comprehend what it looks like. It is just beyond our ability to comprehend. And that's why where I see spirituality, it plays a fundamental part of our human experience. And you will see later why. Being spiritual doesn't mean having to adhere to a particular set of religious belief. In my book, I talk about spirituality. I say spirituality for the religious, the non-religious, and the atheists, because it is part of our humanity. It does require, like as I said, it requires us to develop and practice spiritual skills. I will talk about them later on. We'll talk about spiritual needs for mental health. You know, spirituality, when I looked into research in spirituality, I found more than 27 definitions of spirituality. Spirituality, to me, is not a goal. It is a tool in our hands to keep us happy and healthy physically and mentally. That's how I see it. So I picked 7 elements of spirituality that we need, and I can convince any of you that you can adopt it for yourself. Believing in a higher power, whether you're religious, non-religious, or atheist, there is power outside us that has influence in our lives. You know, you intended to do something comes in the way. It wasn't meant to be. So there is a higher power, and I said the higher power reflected and shaped by your own understanding. If you believe in religion, you believe in God, it is God. Believe in nature, it is nature. It is the law of the universe. It is whatever, but it is something outside us that affects us and prevents us from doing things even we wanted to do. And it helps us to kind of interfere what we do, whether better or worse. The second point is self-knowledge and self-discovery. As I mentioned, is that we grow up with the ego that we don't separate us from who we really are. And we grow in a society, we forget about our original self or authentic self, and we adapt to this ego and think it is our reality. It is not. And that's why I encourage everyone to start with self-knowledge and self-discovery. When you get to know yourself, you know what you can do, and you know what you're skilled at, what you're gifted at, what your talents are, and what you can give to the world. and you discover you have flaws. You are aware of them, and you know there is nobody's perfect. So in self-knowledge, it motivates you and encourages you to move forward and become you, the real you. You don't have to pretend. You don't have to act when you're with people. You're just being you. And imagine you go to a group or a social gathering and just act like yourself instead of pretending. You have no stresses, because you're being yourself is you are at best. The third thing is identifying, as I said, when you go and self-discovery, you will identify your uniqueness. You are so unique. Every one of us in this 7 billion people are unique and different. And you need to discover your uniqueness, because in discovering your uniqueness, you will find yourself there. And discovering it is not enough. You identify it, and then you honor it. You honor your values. You honor your beliefs. And when you do that, you feel better about yourself, about the world around you. Recovering your authentic self, as I said, the purpose of all this journey so far is recovering your authentic self, the beautiful person you were when you were born, free of pressure of society, pressure of parents, school, and become you, the real you. And this is a joy that you will never identify until you experience it. I promise you that, because I went through the same journey and I know the difference, but it is difficult to describe it. When you adopt this value, and guess what? You start moving in your life becomes so easy and so well prescribed. You start looking, and instead of seeking, you realize that material wealth is not your goal. You realize living a meaningful life is your goal. And guess what? When you live a life with purpose and passion, you could never be depressed. And so it is healing process. Being aware of your connection, you are not alone. When you recover yourself and you start honoring your uniqueness, you attract people to you. Your practicing of spiritual skills attracts people to you. Your wealth attracts to you. Everything is attracted to you. You attract what you desire, because it is coming from a sincere heart. Being aware of the connection, and when you feel connected to the universe, you could never feel lonely, because you know the strengths you're connected with your community, with everything around you. The seventh and most important aspect of spirituality is cultivating and practicing your spiritual skills and honoring them at all times. And I'll talk about these things later on. You know, in the past 35 years, as I mentioned, they found that when you practice spirituality, life ceases to be a struggle. If you don't have a struggle in your life, you don't have depression, you don't have anxiety. You seek to live a meaningful life and follow your heart. You know, they tell us, oh, go, your parents, go and get this job or get this career going, and you work so hard to reach this career and reach this professional job, that it was against your interest and against what your original nature is. And after you getting the job, it becomes a source of your struggle. So when you look for life in a meaningful way and follow your heart, you're doing what you love. And when you do what you love, guess what? You succeed. Wealth comes as outcome of doing what you love. Spirituality is shown to have a positive impact on both physical and mental health. As I said, in the past 35 years, this research in heart, people who have heart disease, high blood pressure, cancer, AIDS, all these illnesses improved or healed because of adopting their bringing spirituality in their life. Mental health, they use it for people who have addictions. 12 steps. It is all trying to bring people to spirituality. But the approach I'm mentioning here is basically designed for you to heal from depression and anxiety. Spirituality plays an important role in human experience and contributes to our view of the world. When you bring spirituality into your life, you find your way easily. Your journey for your life becomes so easy and so it's natural, because you're following what your purpose is. You'll be able to contribute the best of your talents and gifts to the world. And most importantly, it helps you to heal, and it prevents you from falling sick again. The third root cause of depression is stress. And stress is defined as a body's reaction to a stimulus perceived as testing, threatening, or calling for rapid change. And stress can be good. There is positive stress. Positive stress motivates you, gets you to get the work done, gets you to achieve your goals. That's positive stress. It's usually short-term, acute stress. The other harmful stress is the chronic stress, the stress that lasts very long time until you burn out. It causes physical illness, it causes mental illness. So that's one thing that we need to be aware of. It can be contributed for, as I said, physical illness, sudden change in your life, sudden changes, moving to another country, moving to another house, getting a divorce, getting married. Whether it's positive or negative, sudden change can cause high stress. Environmental factors like temperature, cold, noise, this can be another contributor to stress. But in the end of the day, stress is not what happens to us. It is our response to what happens. Okay, stress is not what happens to us, it is our response to what happens. You remember when we were kids and they teach you when you do something, they have a reaction to it, and you develop that reaction to the stress you face. You notice when you grow up, although you're more mature and capable, you still react the same way you were as a child. How bad stress affects us? There is a bad situation that happens. We have our core beliefs, the beliefs that our values and the core belief, and this it taints the situation, the bad situation, and describes in a way to us. If, as a bad stress, we have pessimistic thoughts, with this is going to be the end of the world, we look at the worst outcome of that situation, what happens to us? Negative emotional reaction. We become very negative, and guess what happens to us when we are under negative emotional stress? Our bodies start secreting hormones that's toxic to us. And in studies about depression, and they found that the part who stores information shrinks. It is smaller in people who have depression than people who have never had depression. And it is believed to attribute to the cortisol, the stress hormone that's secreted in the body in excess. So as a result, we go into a physiological reaction, and as a result, the illnesses with the physical high blood pressure, diabetes, heart problems, and mental illness. So, and that's a major contributor to our mental and physical illness, as I described here in this scheme. Then You saw in the presentation so far, I talked about the conditioning, I talked about the lifestyle, neglecting our spiritual needs, consumerism, chronic stress, and I talked about the fourth factor, lack of self-care. These are the root causes of depression and anxiety. And this is based on lengthy research in the past 25 years. I did this work, and you can see the root causes of your depression or anxiety. Any questions so far or any comments? Good.
This is really good. This is really reinforcing all the steps that I've taken throughout the years I've come here and through my cancer journey.
Absolutely. And here is one thing, is that, like, looking at the root causes, in your opinion, how can we deal with the root causes? Number one, conditioning. What can we do about conditioning? Deconditioning. Okay? Deconditioning. Simple. Conditioning, we remove, get rid of the conditioning we underwent. And you remember when I talked about self-discovery. That's deconditioning. Lifestyle. All we need to change is to change our lifestyle from what society taught us to do to what we really feel we need to do. Chronic stress, be aware of our stresses and be aware of how our body feels, and deal with the stress as it comes and get rid of the stresses that affects you. Lack of self-care, taking care of ourselves. If you do these 4 elements, you cannot fall, you cannot fail. You will heal fully if you follow these as I described it in this presentation. So in our program, the mental wellness program, I say it's a holistic approach to healing that addresses body, mind, and spirit. You will learn the deconditioning process. You will learn how to change your lifestyle to suit you as a unique person. You learn stress management skills, and you learn how to practice self-care. These all are our kind of fundamental elements of the mental wellness program. So in deconditioning, I said changing lifestyle, living according to our values and beliefs. So you remember when we were living according to society's values and belief, and you have to make money to be wealthy, to have a bigger home, bigger car? No, I live according to my values and my beliefs. And my values is to live a good life, not to make wealth. You see the point here. Addressing our spiritual needs, understanding what our spiritual needs are, resolving the issue of stress management, and practicing self-care. That's all. So in deconditioning, what happens? In deconditioning, as I said, we do self-discovery, we're recovering your authentic self, identifying and honoring your uniqueness, we discussed that, cultivating new skills, and replacing old habits. In the process of self-discovery, you will find out that you have old habits that triggers your depression and anxiety. So you identify them, then you have to replace, in brain plasticity, it's like a computer. You have these old habits ingrained in your brain. You start creating new habits to override these old habits. When you override the old habits, you have the new habits that's healthy, that's constructive, that makes you feeling better about yourself and about life. It's changing your lifestyle. You start building your lifestyle according to your needs, not according to your society or your parents, your friends. You cultivating and practicing your spiritual skills. What spiritual skills I didn't Say it's like about love, about acceptance, about surrender, gratitude, a charity giving, forgiveness. These are all spiritual skills. We put them in the back burner and we don't practice them. And if we don't practice them, we always lose. We can make a lot of money, but what's the value of making a lot of money and being happy, being unhappy, being miserable? You know? So these are things, if you follow, you will succeed. Living a meaningful life, when you live a life with meaning and passion, you cannot be anxious or depressed. You see? Stress management. It is really, as I said, stress is a major player in causing us, that's the straw that breaks the camel's back. Stress. So you have to be aware of giving yourself time to reflect, to be aware of how your body feels. And manage stress as it comes. Is this stress is going to be devastating for my life? If it is, can it change my perception of the situation? Can I see it in a better light? Or can I change the situation itself? If I am having a job that's making me miserable, and I can't make myself comfortable in the job, maybe it's better to move on to another job. So it is you're finding your way to manage tolerable stress. No chronic stress. It is tolerable, temporary, and resolvable. Self-care, taking care of your body, sleep well, diet, supplements, exercise, breaks, leisure time, socializing. These are all elements of self-care that the body needs. Socializing, your body needs it as eating. It is as important. So these are the 4 elements. What would you gain out of applying this program? Number 1, you have peace of mind. You're content with your life. You're worry-free. You're enjoying positive emotions. This program will help you to generate within you positive emotions. Gratitude. I teach you about how to practice gratitude daily. So when you practice gratitude, you feel the change in your life. You will enjoy happiness, self-satisfaction, feeling loved. When you change, you attract people. When my focus on making money, I have nobody around me. When my focus on taking care of people around me, they will be around me forever because they feel the love and they reciprocate it. So you're always winning. You will be appreciated and connected. All these comes as outcome of this program. You have a better self-confidence, more self-esteem, because your self-esteem coming from within you, not depending on what people tell you. You have more feel of self-worth. I am worthy. I am unique. I am one of 7 billion people. Rather than, oh God, everybody's better than me. Nobody is better than you when you apply this program. You improve your professional and personal relationship as the change from within you is reflected around you. People sense how you feel and they react to it without you even noticing. So with the changing within you, you will see, here is one thing. I've been running this group for 12 years. This is my 13th year. I tell you, if I take a picture of one guy or girl join the group and picture of them after joining the group, they look 10 years younger. They look much younger, much healthier. I tell them, for some of my clients, I wish I took your picture when you arrived here because you look completely different. And that's, again, it's reflection from within you. Success in your career and personal life. Success comes your way instead of you chasing it. It comes your way. And that's a huge difference in your life. Heal from depression and anxiety and prevent relapse, and that's the most important thing that will happen. prevent physical and mental illness. As long as you adapt your program, this is a lifelong journey. It is not you learn it today and forget it tomorrow. You have to keep at it the rest of, because every time you practice it, you're becoming a better person. And better person, you get all the good things to you, attract them to you. So, as I mentioned here, it is, when I started, I said, you can't fail. If you apply this program, you cannot fail. I guarantee you'll be successful, as you can see. If you have all these feelings, if you're happy, if you have self-satisfaction, if you're feeling loved and appreciated, can you be anxious or depressed? There is no way. And that's why I say it's guaranteed. There is no guarantee in medicine. But in this situation, you can see, if you apply the program, you bring yourself these positive emotions. And when these positive emotions comes in your life, you never get depressed again. And that's really important point. So the mental wellness program, I run the program in 3 formats. The first, support group. It meets once every 2 weeks on Saturday for 2.5 hours. It is by donation. And it is the suggested donation now. I suggest $20 a session. That's $40 a month. If somebody's life is worth $40 a month, you should join the group. And as I said, it requires commitment. The other program is individual coaching. I work individually with sessions available by appointment, and I charge like $80 per session. The money I collect goes to the charity, because this charity is run without any money from government or corporations. I fund it myself. I've been funding it in the past 12 years. I started with asked for zero donation or everything. Then I asked for $10 for the group session, because I felt people would be benefiting more by contributing. Sessions available by appointment. The workshop, I offer a workshop tailored for individuals over 8 sessions. So these are the 3 formats I offer the mental wellness program, and I encourage you at least join the group. And Dale is a good example, but there are many people who joined, and that's why I continue offering this program, because I see how people's life changes.
Workshop, how much is workshop?
Workshop about $700.
700?
Yes. What to expect? In the past 12 years, clients who applied the program to heart healed fully. Everybody I know of who applied the program healed. It's not just healed fully. Feel happy, live a happy life, and be successful in their life. Because it is everything contribute to you as a person. And in learning these skills, it contributes to your career, it contributes to your personal success. The program uses brain plasticity to help you remodel your brain to work the way you want it. This is basically what I use in this program is principles of brain plasticity. I'm teaching you how to override the bad habits you developed and build the new skills and develop your brain the way you want it to be. A change takes time, and to unlearn old habits and replace them with healthy habits and learn new skills, it takes some time. Unfortunately, you need a coach to help you with this, because if you can overcome this issue on your own, you would have not been here. So a coach guide you, somebody like myself who has been through the same journey. Every step you're going to take, I have walked it. And I know how to guide a person to go through it. I know the pain they go through it. I know the difficulty they face in a change, because I have been there. I was lucky to have a coach. I worked with him for 10 years until he retired. And it was the best contribution to my life because I felt I had somebody supporting me and offer me the guidance when I needed it. It was worthy for myself. And that's what I learned from him and I practice today. Having a coach who guides you through the path is important because will hold you accountable, guide you when you start kind of getting straying from your path, bring you back and keep you on track. Because the problem is that we learn a lot, we read a lot, and say, oh, this program is perfect for me. I go to seminar, I spend a weekend or a week working on seminar, and after that I go back to my life as if never happened. But in this program, I walk with you through the process to make sure that you are taking one step at a time and you continue moving forward. You have to commit at least 3 to 6 months to achieve results. There is no silver bullet. There is as I said, changing the brain takes time, takes perseverance, and takes continuity. You start the program, you continue with it. Unfortunately, sometimes people come to the group, think, I'm feeling better now, I don't need to come back. I didn't need to come to the group. Then, few months later, or few years later, they're coming back. Because they didn't change their brain enough to be in control of that situation. And that's all I have today. And I'll show you this. This is from my book in chapter 4, Discover the Wonderful Person You Are. And I say, inside every one of us, a magnificent spirit with great potential awaits discovery. And nobody's going to discover it but you. Our primary task is to discover that spirit, nourish it, and use our talents and gifts to make a difference in the world. And that's why we're here in this world. We're here to make a difference, not to make a living. Making a living is just so, like, every one of us can make a difference. But you have to use your gifts and talents to do that. To reach that potential, you need to maintain, nurture, and honor your uniqueness. That's the bottom line. You need to maintain, nurture, and honor your uniqueness. Stand up for your values and stick to it. You don't sell yourself out for money or something that's material gains, while people make money and lose themselves. And that's all I have to offer today. If you have any questions or comments, I'll be happy to hear them.